Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Bethany and I'm the Director of Programs with College Possible. We celebrate 15 years of creating more college graduates this year, and we've hosted our share of meetings and conversations and roundtables. This, however, is the first time we've hosted such a gathering across the country and online. So this is truly exciting. Every single person around this table has hustled to get here, and in fact, I know some of you just finished exams before joining us today. We really appreciate it. The reason we're bringing you all together today, during this less than convenient time of year, is that it's an exciting time, and for many of you, it can be a challenging time too. The summer before your freshman year is critical for students, and we want to support you in every way possible, including connecting you with one another and hearing from you about how things are going. So we're going to start to get to know each other a little bit in just a moment, and then we'll spend the bulk of our time together addressing the questions of our rising college freshmen. We've brought together several of our incredible graduates to help you get a picture of what freshman year will look like. We'll talk through your worries about this summer and address anything else that you'd like to hear from someone a few years down the road who's earned their diploma. We're also joined by Jim McCorkell, CEO and founder of College Possible, who has sat where you're sitting and is a first-generation college graduate from a low-income family. Welcome, Jim.
Thanks, Bethany.
Students, you're in for such an amazing experience. We're so thrilled for you, and we want to give you a glimpse of all that's in front of you. So with that, I'd love to hear from all of you. Tell us your name, your college plans, what you're most excited, and what you're most worried about for college. So without further ado, Amani, would you mind getting us started?
Yeah, that's fine. Hi, my name's Imani Lee. I am currently, but not for long, a senior attending Milwaukee School of Languages. I plan to attend Marquette University here in Milwaukee in the fall. I think the thing that I'm most excited about with this is it's just that next step in your life, that next chapter, and I'm just really excited to go through that. Something that I'm really worried about is with me being the only person in my family to attend college, it's something, you know, something that my family, including I, aren't used to. So, you know, I'm just ready. I'm just really ready at this point.
Great. Thanks, Amani. Kaylee, I'm wondering, can we go to you next?
Hi, my name is Kaylee. and I'm graduating from David Douglas in Portland, Oregon. I am really excited to be moving back to Florida and to be studying psychology and pre-med. I'm really worried about sharing a dorm and bringing too much to my dorm when I'm driving down to Florida. And I'm going to Eckerd College.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kaylee. Nick, let's turn it to you.
Yeah, sure. I'm Nick. I graduated from Papillion-La Vista South High School in Omaha, Nebraska, and I plan on going to the University of Nebraska-Omaha to study music technology. I'm really excited to learn about something that not a lot of people are into, and so go and meet new people and have a brand new experience that's tailored to what I want to learn. I'm just mostly worried about, I guess, transitioning from high school to college, course-wise.
Sure. Thank you. And last but certainly not least on the student side, Zerbeen.
Hi, my name is Zerbeen Atosha Rifa. I just graduated from Harding High School yesterday, and I'll be attending the University of Minnesota Twin Cities. One thing I'm most excited about is traveling, like doing study abroad things, and the clubs I'll be joining throughout my college years. And one thing I'm nervous about is the lack of diversity in college.
Thank you. Okay, recent grads, you're up. Congratulations. Now we'd like to hear from you. Please tell us your name, your college, the best and most challenging parts of college, and certainly what you're up to next.
Okay, I guess I'll start.
Thank you.
So I'm Goldmong. I went to Tufts University and I just graduated last month. So really excited about that. I'll start with my most challenging thing. It was being by myself because I'm from Milwaukee. And so I went away to Massachusetts and it was really hard on me. But the most rewarding part was that I found a group of students, a group of people, a community that were more than just friends. They were like my second family, and so they really helped me throughout my college years. After college, I will actually be a college coach at College Possible, so I'm really excited about that.
Great, thanks, Goldman. And Vincent. Vincent? We are having a little bit of audio issue, so I'm actually gonna pause you, and I'd like to come back to you once we get the audio issue resolved. Sound okay? Great, thanks. Okay, coaches, in the meantime, while we work to get Vincent back up with us, I'd love to hear from the coaches who are with us. So tell us about what led you to serve with College Possible and anything that you'd like to share with your term of service.
All right, well, I can start. My name is Jessica, and I am a senior coach in Milwaukee. And I decided to serve because I always knew that I wanted to work in education, but I didn't know to what capacity. And so I thought that College Possible would be the perfect place for me to sort of explore and figure out what it was I wanted to do in the realm of education. And it turns out that I love the teaching aspect of it. So I'm actually going back to grad school next year for elementary education.
Great, thank you. Laura, let's go to you in Portland.
Hi, yeah. My name is Laura Miller. I am a senior coach here in Portland, split coach. And I think the reason I served this year is to give back to a community that I kind of grew up in. I graduated from one of the high schools that I serve at, which is a really rewarding experience for me. I was also the first one in my family to go to college, and looking back on my high school experience, I really wish I would have had this kind of support. So finding out about College Possible and the location it's in just drew me in immediately, and I couldn't have asked for a better year. And yeah, I think one of the big successes, I guess, for this season is seeing really like the financial aid gaps close for my students. Kaylee especially, going off to school in Florida is really far away, but seeing her close these gaps with these scholarships has just been really rewarding.
Great. Thank you very much. Let's go to Seth in Omaha next.
Hi, my name is Seth, and I am a senior coach at Papillion La Vista South High School. And the reason that I served is I could have been in College Possible when I was in high school, except for we obviously didn't have College Possible in my tiny hometown. So I just wanted to give, and I had the best college experience, so I really wanted to open up that opportunity to other students from similar background, and because I don't think that anybody should miss out on going to college just because of income barriers.
Great, thank you, Seth. And Patrick in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area.
Hi everybody, my name is Patrick Snyder. I'm currently serving as a senior coach at Harding Senior High School, so my second year at College Possible. I think why I initially decided to serve, in part because a lot of my peers, I graduated from McCallister, which is sort of like this pipeline for College Possible coaches. A lot of my peers were encouraging me to do so, and also I felt like I wanted a chance to give back. For me, college was never really a question. It was something I knew I was doing. It wasn't until I got to college that I realized that that's not the case for everybody. So this is a tangible way to act on that. And I also am convinced that colleges, our country, our world need more students like ours to be in positions of power, to be making decisions that affect the lives of people. people, and so I'm also really drawn to the work for that reason.
Wonderful. Thanks all for the intros. And I promise we will, if we're able to circle back to Vincent, we will certainly do so. In the meantime, and finally, let's meet Jim McCorkell, our founder and CEO, to this conversation. Welcome him to the conversation today. So Jim, tell us a little bit about yourself, your college experiences, and what excites you about being here today.
Well, thanks, Bethany. Boy, this sure is fun, isn't it? This seems so high tech. This is the first time I've done something like this, and this is really fun to see people from all around the country that are involved in our work, and certainly a lot of congratulations to all of our students. As you said, Bethany, it's been 15 years since we started College Possible, and I was thinking a lot of the students we're working with now were just little toddlers when we got started, which makes me feel a little old. And Bethany's been with us, I think, 14 of the 15 years. So thank you, Bethany, for all of your hard work over the years. Part of the reason I started College Possible is that, like so many of the people that have already shared bits of their stories, I grew up in a low-income family and had parents that didn't complete high school, let alone ever get to college. My mom and dad met as teenagers, and before they knew it, my mom got pregnant, and they dropped out of high school and started their lives, but raised 5 children. I'm the youngest of 5, and we all made it to college. And so that was a big part of my desire to create College Possible. And just one little story I thought I would share is that, my parents so wanted their kids to go to college that they did a lot to try to make that possible for us. But one of the interesting stories was when I was finishing my junior year of high school, my dad was the foreman on a paint crew, and he said that he could get me a job on the paint crew, and I'd earn about twice as much money as I was earning at the grocery store I worked at. And so I said, yeah, Dad, I'd love to have that job. That'd be awesome. And so he said, well, I'll help you get the job, Jim, but you have to do it. It's one condition. You have to promise your mom and me that you will go to college. And I took that really seriously, and I loved working those summers with my dad, but I did go to college, to Carleton College, and then later to graduate school. Here, I'm actually here today at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. And so that's a big part of why I started the organization, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation today.
Great. Thank you all for those introductions. Now we're going to start with the discussion and the Q&A piece of this. And so let's start with what I would call your burning questions about your upcoming transition to college. So students, what would you like to ask? Start thinking, and if I can put someone on the spot to get us going, let's start with Imani.
All right, once again. All right. I know that you said that one of your most challenging things while going to college was being away from your family. I wanted to know, was there something, a special challenge that you faced while attending college, something that kind of came up that it was really hard to deal with?
Okay, Imani, I'm just going to pause you for 1 second. And I see that we have Vincent back. Vincent, can you hear us? And can we hear you? Let's try it.
Hello?
Yes! Okay. We're going to recap. Imani, thank you for being brave and going first with that question. We're going to come back to you. We'll recap that question. But Vincent, can we come back to you and get your intro and hear a little bit more about you?
Of course. All right. So like I said before, my name is Vincent Henry. I went to Augsburg College, graduated a month ago about. I think the most rewarding part of my college experience was the people I met. Like Goldmunk said, a lot of them became my family and lifelong friends. And also networking is probably the biggest part of college because it's not what you know, it's who you know in the end. So that's probably the biggest advice. I know we're probably going to get to that question later, but that was my advice. And then the most challenging was probably time management. You do a little of that in high school, but it's like intensified in college between work and extracurriculars and academics. So that was the toughest part of is just balancing my life. And then I'm also going to be a high school coach coming this fall, so I'm excited about that.
Cheers.
Great. Thank you, and great to have you back online here. Okay, well, that's actually a really wonderful transition back to Amani's question. And make sure I get this right. Amani, your question is, what was your biggest challenge while being in college? Do I have that correct?
Yes.
Wonderful. And grads, let's have you tackle that first. Anybody want to start?
I guess I can start since I touched it a little bit. So time management. While I was in college, I probably worked maybe 40 to 50 hours a week, 60 hours plus this past semester. So that was just for me to pay for my own tuition. But if you don't need to do that, then please don't, because it was horrible. So just be able to balance your life. I was also the vice president of student government, so I had a lot of extracurricular responsibilities also. So make sure academics is definitely your priority in college, but also these other experiences help you build your skills and develop yourself as a person for the real world. So, yeah.
Great, thank you. Goldmont, Jim, anything to add on that particular question?
I would say time management as well, and I think the most important about time management is actually taking care of your body and actually eating correctly and sleeping. I know when I went to college, I barely slept because I had kind of bad time management, and so I lost a lot of sleep. So I think it's really important to think about your health and what you need in your body.
Great. Okay. We're gonna move on to another question. Nick, do you have a question for the group?
Yeah. What is something that you wish someone would have told you before your first semester of college?
Great question. Vincent or Goldmont, anyone want to
I'll start
tackle that
again.
one first? Great.
I would say one of the things that made me most nervous about going to college in the first place was how people made it seem that it was very difficult and stressful. But I would say people exaggerate a little bit, and that may be like deterring people from actually attending college. It is tough. It's more difficult and rigorous academically, but it's also a lot of fun, and it's a great experience. And also, you only have four courses per semester, a little different from high school. So you definitely have time to do schoolwork and things like that, and still have a life outside of school. So.
Wonderful, thanks. Goldmont, anything that you wish you would have known before your first semester of college?
I'm trying to think really hard. I think what I wish that people would have told me is more about, I don't know, actually.
That's all right. That's all right. Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. You know, certainly, if there's more that comes to your mind, we'll circle back, but you're not required to answer by any means. So, anything else to add from the group? All right, with that, Kaylee, I'm going to put you on the spot for the next question.
Okay, what was your guys' biggest fears going into college, and how did you overcome it?
Biggest fear going to college, and how did you overcome it?
You want to get this first, Goldmung, or you want me to?
Yeah, I can go.
All right.
Well, my biggest fear was the academics. I think a lot of people told me about how difficult it was. And also, I feel like people scared me a little bit, or they're just like, you know, you're going to be on your own, you're going to do your own thing. And I'm sort of like a bad exam taker, and so I was really afraid during exam season. And so what really helped me overcome it was I sort of created relationships with my professors and talked to upperclassmen, and they sort of helped me through it. And so yeah.
That's great. Thank you. Vincent, sounds like you had something to add there.
Yeah. I would say, so I'm a little bit of an introvert. So being thrown into a pool of a bunch of random people I've never met before was kind of frightening. So probably the biggest fear I had going into college was meeting people and just getting involved into the campus life. But how I overcame that was by getting involved into different student organizations and things like that, and meeting people through common interests. So get involved. It's a great experience.
Great. I think those are great points. Thanks, you too. Zerbine, question. Do you have one that you'd like to share?
Yeah. This is for anyone that studied abroad. And my question is, what advice can you give about studying abroad?
Great. So on this panel, who has anybody studied abroad? Let's start with that.
I did. I just came back a week ago.
Tell us all you know.
I just did a 2-week program in Central Europe. I visited Prague and then Poland for a couple of days, seeing Auschwitz. So that was a great experience. I would have definitely did it earlier in my college career and possibly for a longer period of time, because I don't feel like I received the whole study abroad experience, but it was definitely something amazing that will be a life changer. And I encourage all of you students to do that.
Great. Did anybody else raise their hand, so to speak, for study abroad experience? Coaches included. Okay. We're all about to go back and reflect on our own travel plans, I think. Okay, great question. I'm going to keep opening it up sort of in a general format if there are more questions, but Amani, I'm going to come back to you since we're doing, just in case you've got another one. Can I shout out to you here?
Yeah, I do have another question. Actually, going into Kaylee's question, this is separate from the question that I had. I wanted to know, a lot of my friends are really worried with the cost of college and tuition. I recently viewed a documentary on CNN titled Ivory Tower, and right now they stated that students are $1 trillion into debt. And I think when I saw that, I was really scared, especially going to a private school. So what is kind of your advice with dealing with that sort of anxiety for upcoming students?
That's a wonderful question. Who would like to tackle that one first? Yeah?
I will.
Vincent? Great, go for it. Go for it.
Going back in.
I would say it is a big stress. Money is probably one of the biggest stresses in life, but don't make it like one of your top things that you're thinking about, because you still need to do your schoolwork. There are loans out there for you, especially for College Possible students. Lots of loans, lots of grants and scholarships. So just look into that. Meet with your financial advisors pretty regularly, because they're a big resource on campus for you. And then if you need to work, then get out and there's work-study programs, or you can find something around your campus to get a little extra money. So.
Jim, yeah, can I put you on the spot there?
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think it's a real issue. It is expensive to go to college, but I always want to make sure that people remember that the payoff is still absolutely worth it. The amount that you're going to earn over the rest of your lifetime with a college degree is so much more than if you don't get a college degree. So even though it is expensive, it's absolutely worth it in terms of what you'll earn. And of course, it's more than that. It's getting exposed to the whole world and all the things that you'll learn and the people you'll meet. But I would say, one thing to remember is College Possible doesn't end with your high school graduation. That we're here to help support you when you get to college, and so you'll have a College Possible coach that will be there to help you apply for more financial aid, complete the FAFSA form, which unfortunately you have to do every year. It's kind of a painful experience. But to make sure you complete that, to make sure you're applying for scholarships, and then to help empower you to advocate for yourself. Don't be afraid to go to the financial aid office and tell them how much you're struggling, and see if they can find some other financial aid for you or help you get a campus work-study job if they don't already have one for you. So it is a challenge, but I think the thing I would say is to really remember that it's absolutely worth it.
Jim, thank you so much for bringing that up. I think the self-advocacy piece and also knowing we're with you from the College Possible side throughout the process too. Really important points. Thank you for bringing those up. I do wonder, is there a question about, with Vincent and Golmo, can you talk about your college years in terms of the support that you did receive from College Possible?
Yeah. Well, for me, since I was on my own, I think that my college coach was someone who I felt that I could turn to for advice and to talk about things. A lot of times I would just talk about like, oh, like I'm looking for some, scholarships because, I need some money for school. And so they would just send things, and they were really someone familiar for me because I went to college where I knew nobody, like nobody. And so they really helped me out. And also, like, even just like talking about my everyday issues, like they were always there to like read my emails or like talk to me about things. So it was really, really, really supportive.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Goldmung. They're a really supportive group of people. They've pushed me and motivated me into getting involved in different things. Like there's one program called Inroads, which is an internship program here in the Twin Cities, and I think in other regions also. And also they were on me about applying to College Possible, which was probably one of the better decisions I made in my college career. Let's put a plug in. Back to the financial aid question. If you need help paying back those loans, they'll help you with that. So apply at the end of your 4 years, students.
Great. Good plug for Inroads. Well done. Wonderful. Well, I'm going to pause here. Any other questions that a student would like to ask? Otherwise, I'm going to move us on to kind of a whole other category of questions.
I have
Great. Yes.
I wanted to know, how did you feel your college experience would be without having a College Possible coach?
So how would your college experience have been without a College Possible coach? Can people kind of think back and think that what that might have looked like? Great.
I don't think my transition. Oh, sorry, Goldman. You want to start?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I don't think my transition to college from high school would have been as smooth. I think they definitely helped me navigate the different routes and resources that were on campus. So without that, then I'll kind of be a little more lost and have taken a little more time to figure things out.
Yeah, I would have been really lost too. I think with the coaches, they sort of prepared me to go into college, and so without them, I think I would have I don't know what I would have done. Like, I can't even imagine going to college without a coach, because I feel like I'm the type of person who is afraid to talk to like people I don't know, especially people with authority. And so I would have been really afraid to like go up to them and ask them questions. And so my college coach was actually sort of like the in-between and sort of like helping me through that. And so I don't know what I would have done.
Good. Thanks for that question and those responses. Okay, I'm going to move us. Oh, question? Yeah. Servine.
Okay, so like I said before, one of my biggest fears of college is the lack of diversity. And so I was just wondering, for the grads, how did you guys deal with that in college, and what advice would you give to minority students?
Great question. Goldmung, would you like to start us out on that?
Yeah, well, I had that fear as well, but honestly for me, like, the first thing I did was look for a student organization that was for my racial location, my group, and so I went straight to them, trying to see what was going on, and then that's how I sort of got connected with other students and other organizations, and so and they really became my family, and that was what I did.
That's wonderful. Great idea. Vincent, what to add on that?
Yeah, I agree. Well, first, one of my things when going into college was to make sure that the college had great diversity, and that's what Augsburg offers to me as a person. They're really strong on intentional diversity and being supportive of different types of students. So that was great already. And then also getting into the student organizations. I was a part of the Pan-African Student Union, and they also have a lot of other different multicultural organizations that I was able to be a part of. So getting into those different organizations and again getting involved, even if it's not a multicultural organization, any organization that you feel comfortable with joining just to meet new people would be great.
Bethany?
Yes, yes.
You know, I think we're onto something that's so important. You know, I was just reading a study this morning, actually, by the Pell Institute that was saying that one of the best predictors of who will graduate from college once they enroll is whether or not you get really engaged on campus, meaning getting involved with a group, whether it's a multicultural group or even just, like I know, Bethany, when you were in college, you played volleyball. You're finding people who share your interest. And I wondered if our graduates could explain, how did you find the groups that you got involved in? Like, how do you do that? Like, you show up day one, how do you figure out where these groups are and how do you get involved?
Great question. I'm seeing head nods. Who would like to share how they found their groups?
Well, I actually took some ethnic study courses, and so it was a lot about race, a lot about culture, and so that's where I met some people who were more involved, and I started talking to them, and you know, I think that was one of my biggest interests is about race and culture, and so just talking to them and seeing what they're involved in, and then getting in through that way.
Great.
I think the way I got involved, day one, there was orientations, and we have the thing called Augie Days, and they have the student involvement fair, which a lot of people don't take advantage of, but all the student orgs are tabling in whatever area that your college has set aside for that. And then you're just able to walk around and talk to people, whether they're advisors or fellow students who are part of those organizations. So when you do come up to the fall, take advantage of the student involvement fair of your college and talk to these different people who you may have some interest in joining their group. So.
That's great. And I bet even as we sit here on the forefront for us with technology and doing this, I bet if you plug into Google or something online, you can find a student group at your school too. So, great question and super important. Okay, I'm going to pause again because these are fantastic questions and I want to make sure we're not missing any before we move on. Any other questions that folks want to ask in this space? Okay, I'm going to take that pause as a let's move on to the next category. And we're going to move on to questions about specifically academics. So I'd love for you, as you ask your questions, to please let us know if this is a question specific for the graduates or if it's a question specific to Jim. Certainly anyone can answer, but if there is someone in mind that you have on the front end, please do let us know. Okay, I'm going to switch up the order just a little bit here. Kaylee, do you have a question for someone here on academics?
This question is for Jim. It's kind of long. Do you have any advice in choosing a major? Like, did you choose a major in your career or something fun? And did it help you to become who you are now?
Great question.
That is a great question. You know, I think picking a major is such a big decision. And so I think a lot of what I have to say is actually a story of what not to do. That's probably partly why I created College Possible. Is I made probably every mistake you could make. But I think so. I think one of the things is to follow your heart a little bit when you get to college and try some new things, maybe things that you are interested in, but maybe a little bit scared of. Like, one of the few things I did right, I think, was when I went to college, we had you could take a couple of classes during your time where you got no grade, and you just passed or failed, so it didn't affect your grade point average. And that gave me sort of the courage to try a course or two that I was kind of scared of. I wasn't sure if I'd be very good at, and exposed me to some things that I might have otherwise shied away from. So I think that's one way to sort of expand. But you know, when I was in college, I thought I wanted to be a doctor. So my sister's a medical doctor, so I took all the pre-med courses, and mostly didn't enjoy them too much. They were, you know, pretty hard. And so I made the mistake of taking all the pre-med courses, and then by about my senior year, deciding I did not want to go to medical school. So that did not help my GPA at all. But I majored in political science, which was the thing I kind of found the most interesting. And for me, I really got turned on by a professor who went on to become Minnesota's U.S. Senator, Paul Wellstone. And that was really the reason I majored in political science, is that, you know, when I got exposed to him and how he talked about the injustices in the world and all of the problems that we face, and one of the things he said to us was to go find your part of the world and try to make a difference. And so, you know, he really inspired me to want to do what I'm doing now, though majoring in political science wasn't exactly a straight line. You know, I went later on and actually worked for him on his campaign, and I didn't really find exactly what I wanted to do with my life until I got to graduate school. Here, where I am actually today, visiting at the Harvard Kennedy School, was where I really came up with the idea for College Possible. So it took a little bit of time. So what I would say in summary is to not put too much pressure on yourself to know what you're going to major in too early, to try a few different things, to really try to follow your heart a little bit. I think a lot of times those of us who come from a low-income background feel a lot of pressure to major in something that's going to lead to a job, and that's important. And you got to keep an eye on that. I mean, you do want and need to get a job when you get out, but also to follow your heart and make sure you're studying what you love. Because, you know, a lot of people have said to me over the years, and I think this is true, it's certainly been true for me, if you can spend your life doing what you love, it'll all work out. You'll be able to have enough income to afford a home and, you know, to just have a decent life.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jim. Okay, I'm going to move us on to the next question. Nick, anything to add on the academic question front?
Yeah, question for Jim. I was wondering how, after graduation, how he took the next step to go on to create College Possible and anything else he did career-wise.
Yeah, well, I started a little bit of the story just in my last answer, which was that it was not a very straight line. You know, when I was graduating from college, I feel like I sort of missed the memo or the email about how to get a job. You know,
Am I supposed to say you didn't have that then? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, there was no email. That's right. But you know, poster or whatever. I missed it, and I didn't spend much time at the career center. And every college has a career center where they'll help you think about how to get a job, how to put together a resume, how to explore for jobs. And I just, you know, didn't know how to do that. I applied for a couple of jobs, did not get them, and I got done with college and didn't have any job, and that was pretty scary. And that first summer after college graduation, I went back to work on a paint crew, and I felt, you know, a little bit like a loser. You know, like I graduated from college with honors, and here I am back doing the same thing I would have been doing if I hadn't gone to college. And I then moved to Washington, D.C. Some friends had some room in a house, a bunch of people living in a house, and I thought, well, I don't have anything else to do, so I went out there, and my first job there, you know, just to pay the rent, was washing dishes at a pizza place. But slowly I found my way, and I interned on Capitol Hill, and then I eventually got a job. But I guess part of my story is that it's not a straight line, you know, like I look back now and I have this wonderful life now where I have a great job and I'm doing exactly what I love. But there were ups and downs, and there were times where I felt a little bit lost. There were times where I felt like I didn't know for sure what to do next. And so when I look back, I think my advice to you guys would be to really try to be engaged with other people, ask lots of questions. When it comes to trying to get some internships, it's really important, especially as you get into college, to make sure you get exposed to some things and that you don't just spend all of your time studying and working a job to pay your tuition. And to ask your College Possible coach for help and guidance. That's why we exist, is so that you guys don't have sort of the same stumbling path that I did.
Great. Thank you, Jim. I'm going to pause this for a second to open before I'm going to offer a general question ask. If anybody at this moment would like to ask another question about academics before I move us on to maybe the final question in academics, that'd be great.
I do.
Great.
Okay, so towards the end of my high school year, my priorities ended up being like the clubs I'm involved in and just taking care of myself and like my family's like relationships. And then school was my last priority kind of because I didn't really find passionate in like I used to be. I don't know if it's because the senioritis got to me, but that's how I was in my senior year. And going to college, I put school as a priority, and I feel like I'll be more passionate because I get to do things that I want to do. But I also realized that I still have to take care of myself and everything. And that was one of the biggest challenges in high school, to take care of myself and also prioritize school. And so what advice would you like give to us to like make sure that we prioritize education, but also realize that we should prioritize things that matter to us too, like our health and stuff?
Great. So I'm going to start with, I'm looking, you can't tell I'm looking at you, but Vincent or Goldmung, I'm going to start with you. What advice would you give in thinking both about your life and balance and yourself and also the priority of academics once you get to college?
Well, I think one of the best things that helped me, at least during my first couple years, was having an agenda. In the agenda, you can write when your classes are. You can even use a Google Calendar for this, but when your classes are, when you want to put set aside for doing schoolwork, when you have different meetings for extracurriculars or otherwise or work, and in that you can find free time within yourself to put your own alone time or friend social time in there. Just after you, I would say, still prioritize your academics to make sure that they're covered. But after that, you can find the free time to put in your agenda.
Great. Goldmung, I'm seeing you nodding. Anything else to add to that?
Well, I feel like at college, academics is always going to be there. And so what I've done was always try to set at least one day for me. So like, you know, sitting around to nothing to do or going around to, go shopping. I always made sure that I had at least like a few hours for myself because that is important. And, my family has always been like a big thing for me as well. And so it was really hard for me to leave them and just, figure out what's going to happen if I'm gone. But, just really have faith in them and knowing that they will be okay. Just reminding yourself that, they'll be okay and they'll be better when I graduate. So, yeah.
Good, thank you. Jim?
And Beth, I was just going to say, we've talked a lot about some of the challenges with college, but I'll just say, for me, when I got to college, it was the best time of my life. Like I'm going to really sound like an old guy because I'm like all reminiscing about I've got my 25th reunion coming up in a couple of weeks, so I'm going to see some of my classmates. But I made the best friends that I have in the world. Today, I would still say the majority of my best friends are the people I met in college, and we had so much fun. We did all kinds of crazy things. A little bit, some I regret, and probably wouldn't be appropriate to share here. but I had so much fun, and I think that's one of the things is I do agree with Vincent. I think that you want to make sure academics is the first priority. That's why you're there. That's sort of the job of college. But you're there full time, and there's lots of time left to go do the things that you love, to get involved in other things. I got involved in student government, for example, and it's just a chance to make some of the best friends you'll ever make and to really have a lot of fun.
That is great. I'm given we're on this topic of being on a campus and academic, the life in addition to academics. I'm wondering, grads, can you talk a little bit about what it's like if you lived in a dorm, and if you did, what's it like to have a roommate, and what's that experience like? Who would like to start? Goldman, can I start with you?
Yeah, sure. Well, so I had a roommate for 2 years, 2 different roommates. My first roommate, it was actually a random one based on a personality test. And so we actually worked really well together. We were very compatible. But it was just it was difficult because our sleep schedules are very different. I stayed up really late and she slept really early. And so I think if I were to give advice to anybody about roommate situations, is to sort of just communicate and talk with them and let them know about things that that bother you. Because a lot of times, I'm a very clean person, so like the roommates that I had were a little messy, and so like just letting them know that like I like things clean, or like keep things on your side, or just kind of like setting boundaries. I think that's really important.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thanks. Vincent, anything to add on that one?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to have my first roommate be someone I knew from high school who was also a College Possible student, so I knew him pretty well. And I think what all your colleges will have you do at the beginning of the school year is to set guidelines and rules for your room. So just make sure, like Goldmung said, to communicate clearly with them. And then throughout your college career, whether you decide to go on to residential living or otherwise, there are different types of dorms that you can stay in. My second and third year, I stayed in a floor house, which consisted of 15 rooms with a shared living area and kitchen, which was pretty nice. So looking at those different types, or there's different apartment style dorms and things like that. So whatever fits your needs, you should look into that.
That's great. Thank you. So we have we have a few questions. What I've been asking are questions from students who aren't able to join us today and aren't specifically a part of this roundtable. And so before I move into some more of those, perhaps more on the social life side of things, and I want to pause. Are there any questions that the group would like to ask? Could be on any topic, but I just wanted to give this moment to pause.
I had a question more for Jim. I actually wanted to know how the whole College Possible story really started out. I know you briefly touched on that. And what are your overall goals for the program itself?
Oh, well, that's a great question. Well, it's interesting because I've talked a little bit about how my major didn't exactly lead to this, and I felt a little bit lost when I got out of college. And partly I say that because I think it's important to recognize that life is not always just a straight path where everything just goes exactly as planned, and it's okay to have some ups and downs. And so that's partly why I say that. The idea for what was originally Admission Possible, and then we changed our name to College Possible, actually occurred right in the building I happen to be in right now, in the kind of the main building of the Harvard Kennedy School, and I was in a seminar that had to do with affordable housing, because I had come here thinking I would start a different nonprofit, and I sort of had this epiphany, where all of a sudden I thought, I was sort of daydreaming. I wasn't really listening to the person who was speaking, and I was daydreaming a little bit, and I thought, God, what if instead of starting a nonprofit that was going to have to do with renovating houses, what if I started a nonprofit that would help students like I once was get to college? And for me, that was a moment where kind of all my life experiences, I think, sort of crystallized there. I mean, it really it felt like an epiphany, like it just like a bolt out of the blue, but it wasn't. It really came from all the experiences of my life, of my siblings, of my parents. And so I had the good fortune of being able to run that idea by a lot of people here at the Harvard Kennedy School. And then I circulated the idea to just about anybody I'd ever met to see what people thought of it. And then not too long after that, asked everybody I'd ever met if they'd give me some money to get it started. And that was pretty scary. You know, I was scared to start College Possible. I wasn't sure if I could do it, and I didn't know if it would work. And as I graduated from this place, I had a really wonderful job offer to go do something else. And I always have credited my now wife, who was a grad student at the Harvard School of Education at that time, who said to me, you know, you don't want to go work in business, Jim. You know, your heart and soul is with this idea of College Possible, so you've got to pursue your dream. And so I've always really credited her with that. And so then, you know, went back to Minnesota. We eventually got back to Minnesota and started it in 2 high schools in the Twin Cities, one in Minneapolis, one in St. Paul. And shortly thereafter, Bethany joined the team, and we just sort of developed and grew it from there. And the last thing I'll say is, so much of what College Possible has become has been this huge team effort. It's been Bethany and other people on what we call the leadership team, but it's also been every core member, which is now hundreds of core members, coaches who every year help us refine and improve what we do so that we get better and better. So it's really, I sort of feel like I helped get the ball rolling, but it's really been something that all of us together have built, and it's been a dream come true for me.
That is awesome. I'm so glad that you shared that, Jim. And I'm wondering, could you say a sentence or two about sort of then what's on the horizon? I think there might be some interest from the group in that respect too.
Sure. You know, we've had so much success as an organization. You know, we started by just our original mission was to get kids to enroll in college, and then a few years back shifted to actually have the focus be on college graduation. And you know, we can now report that our students that go through our program are 10 times more likely to ultimately earn a college degree than similar students who don't go through our program. So you know, we're really proud of that, and this year the organization will have reached almost 20,000 students in 5 going on 6 different cities. So we've really grown into a significant operation. But even with that, we're wondering how we could reach a lot more students. There's actually about 250,000 students at least who are graduating from high school this year who have the potential to go to college and who many colleges would want, but because they don't get the support of an organization like ours, they're not going to have that opportunity. And their whole life will be diminished because of that, and our country will suffer too. It's not just for those students, it's how we as a country ought to be and need to be. So we're working on some ways to increase our impact, which may involve using technology. So this is kind of appropriate that we're doing this in kind of a high-tech environment today, or an interesting way. We're looking at ways to use technology to reach many more students, and probably some partnering with other organizations and things like that. So we hope by this fall to have a new strategic plan.
Great, thank you, Jim. With that, I'm actually, it's that time. It's surprising how quickly an hour can go, and so I'm going to kick it right back to Jim actually for some final thoughts before we wrap up.
Okay, well, this has been a lot of fun, and I think this is like such a cool thing to do, and to have all of us all across the country together like this has really been cool, and has actually worked really well technically. So congratulations to everybody who put it together. It's kind of a minor miracle. I would have not bet that this would work so well. This has been great. So and it's been really fun to see everybody. I guess I thought there's a couple of things I thought I would close with. One is kind of in the theme of don't do what I did. So one would be to definitely strive to get involved and engaged when you get to campus. And it doesn't have to be academic. It can be whatever the thing is that you're passionate about. Most colleges have some group that does that. Like if you're into badminton, there's somebody who's got a badminton league, or whatever your thing is. Or if there's not one, you can often create one. And so you can just form one. And the key, I think, is at first it can feel kind of lonely when you get there, but you've got to find your people. You've got to find the people that are going to be your friends. And I think that requires joining groups and getting involved on the social side. And then the other thing I would say, which I said earlier, is I really think during the summers or other breaks to try to get some kind of internship. I think Vincent mentioned Inroads. That is a national organization that's a great way for students of color to get introduced to some kind of job. So to try to get a sense of what you might like to do, that's really important. And then lastly, I would just say as you head off to college, to remember that you deserve this, that you've earned this. And so many of us, I think, when we first got our acceptance letter to college or to graduate school, I certainly remember getting my letter to come to Harvard and thinking, well, there must have been some kind of mistake. This must be a clerical error. They must not know who I really am. And a lot of us have felt that sometime. And the reality is they do know who you are, and they admitted you because you've earned it, you worked hard for it, and you really deserve it, and you belong. So to all of our students heading off to college, I wish you all the very best of luck and remind you to stay really close to us because we have a college coach assigned to you to help you and guide you so that you graduate.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jim, for that. And thanks to all of you for joining this conversation today, which is a very, very important one. We wish you the best. We want you to take care, and we look forward to hearing about all your adventures of what's to come next. So, see you soon.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
I'm gonna cry. I'm graduating.